What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Iron Infidel. Today we're gonna have a little bit of fun, possibly get people a little bit riled up, and of course make the FUDD range red shirts really butthurt. We're going to talk about the 5 dumbest things I have heard over the past couple of decades that have made their way into law enforcement training. And there's a lot of stuff that's not great that makes its way into law enforcement training. But we're going to have a little bit of fun with this, going through 5 things that I think are just probably things that should never be said out on the range. All right, let's kick this off with one that I know everybody that was ever an FTO or went through FTO has heard, and that is always keep your hands in a defensive position, right? Something like this, like your master Ken out there on the range, right? But let's be realistic. How many times are you contacting people and your hands are either with pen and paper or you're holding on to something, whether it's a suspect or your handcuffs? You're almost never finding yourself in that position. And some people out on the range, when they're doing drills with officers, still teach them to start their initial draw from a position like this. I can get it. A lot of times we're taking notes and things where you've got to drop things and go to your gun. But does this seem like a good idea in the general public out there when you're taking a report from grandma who just got her car broken into? And not only that, but do you think there is any speed to be gained out of facing your target like this, or just being in a relaxed, natural or more natural position where your hands are closer to your gear? And I know this is where my defensive tactics guys come in and say, well, what if you have to block a strike or something? I get that. You should also be keeping your distance out there when you're dealing with people that may assault you. Now, I know some of you are already hot and bothered over that first dumbest thing that we've probably all heard out there on the range. And if you are, make sure you get over to ironinfidel.com, get you a battle bottle so you can cool down, check out the fitness gear, the EDC stuff. Everything is right there for you at ironinfidel.com. All right, the next one up is 2 rounds and assess your target. Now, this is something you're always going to hear, especially when qualifications come around. So 2 rounds and assess that target, right? Does that sound normal to you?
You still want to fight? I'll give you 2. I'll give you 2 more. Okay, you done? Oh, you're done. Okay, you're done.
All right, I honestly don't know where 2 rounds and assess your target came from, because let's be honest, how many videos have we all seen where somebody eats like 7 or 8 9mm rounds and just keeps on coming? And this is where we have to know what we're aiming at, right? There's switches and there's timers. This box right here is a switch, the central nervous system. Lights are out like that. Everything below that is a timer. And you've got somewhere around 1 minute and 30 seconds-ish, maybe a little bit more, before you'll bleed out and eventually stop attacking whoever you're attacking. But I think that 2 round and assess thing is pretty dumb. And I think it was probably made up by a range master trying to conserve ammo and get people to just minimally hit the target at a specific speed to see if they could maybe pass qualification. Either way, I'm not saying mag dump every target, but you need to give each and every target the amount of rounds that target needs to stop being a threat. And it's different every single time. But always remember the difference between the timer and the switch. Now, number 3 here, this is one of my favorites. So raise your hand if you've ever heard slow down and get your hits.
Oh my God. I didn't hit the target a single time. I better slow down and get my hits. Man, the hits don't get any better than that.
All right, now I get it. There is a time and a place to slow down. And generally that's going to be the further you are away from the target, you need to take a little bit more time to establish your sight picture, your grip and everything, get that good shot. Say you're at like 25, 35, 50, something like that, something I regularly train for. I completely understand it. But let's be honest, inside of 15 yards, if you're doing the indoor FUDD range 1 shot per second thing, you're probably either in the wrong job or you're training in such a way that you're just holding yourself back. Speed and accuracy can be combined to a certain extent. You need to train for fast engagements, and you need to train for those fast engagements at all of the normal distances you would have to encounter out to about 25, which is where you really have to start slowing down a little bit.
That's how you do it.
This is one of my personal favorites, number 4, and that is slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Woo, so smooth.
No, slow is just fucking slow. All right, I don't think there's much more explaining needed for slow is smooth, smooth is fast. That's something that's just been beaten to death out there and needs to go away. And again, there is a time to slow down and get those good hits at distance and things like that, but think about things this way. When you're in a defensive encounter, being slow is not gonna do anything for you. You need to be fast and smooth. From my experience working with hundreds of officers, hundreds of people out there in the street in the military, what I always found was it was far easier to take somebody who can shoot really fast and make them more accurate than it was to take somebody who shot really slow or really refined and make them speed up. Maybe you feel different, let me know in the comments, but that is something that I have seen time and time again play out in real life. And for number 5, this is one the range masters harp on: perfect sight picture.
Ooh, perfect sight picture. Yeah, no.
All right, so we had a little bit of fun there, and I think most of us probably are okay with what's an acceptable sight picture based on the target engagement we're dealing with. Maybe it is red smash, where you draw, you're up close, you see red where you need it, and you break that shot. Other times, there is acceptable, or the paintbrush, where you're shooting multiple rounds in a string, say a bill drill, and you're painting that target right in that A box, the dots going up and down in there, and that's your acceptable sight picture, okay? And then again, understandably, we're back at distance and we need to take a more accurate shot. Maybe you slow down a little bit and you get that perfect sight picture, but in all reality, in most defensive shooting, an acceptable sight picture is what you're going to be working with. All right, so for all of our health and well-being, give us a good funny story from your range master down below, if it's one of these 5 or something else, because every range officer has a different quirk or a different saying they're going to give you out on the range in some form of what they feel is appropriate training at the time, whether it's any of these 5 or something crazy that none of us have ever heard of. Make sure you get over to ironinfidel.com, get you a battle bottle, check out the fitness gear, all the EDC gear, and we'll see you guys out on the next one.